Genetic engineering is a process where scientists take genes from one species and force it into the DNA of other species.
Every single independent study conducted on the impact of genetically modified food shows that it damages organs, it causes infertility, it causes immune system failure, it causes holes in the GI tract, it causes multiple organ system failure.
The whole concept of genetically modified organisms is throwing a monkey wrench in the life on this planet.
The first genetically modified animal, a salmon, may soon be approved for human consumption.
Both these fish are 18 months old, but the larger genetically engineered Aqua Advantage salmon grows twice as fast as the regular salmon.
There has not been sufficient animal health testing, human health testing, or environmental impact testing of these new transgenic fish.
Basically, they've taken agriculture and built an industrial model which doesn't fit nature. So instead of changing their agricultural model to accommodate what is natural, they're changing nature to accommodate the industrial model. If you have an organic corn crop that sits next to a genetically engineered corn field, and it happens to tassel at the same time, and it happens to be downwind, you're going to get your crop contaminated.
The rest of the food supply is contaminated. Then the genie is out of the bottle, and it's maybe physically impossible to turn the situation around.
In the genetic engineering revolution, these seeds are now patented property of one corporation called Monsanto.
The pharmaceutical industry has no interest in having you well because they don't make any money if you're well. And the pharmaceutical industry is the biotech industry.
Some people think that GMO really means God move over.
We are heading downhill at a rapid rate of speed toward our own extinction.
The use of GM in agriculture is a risk that is simply not worth taking.
I know Monsanto, as one of the officials of the organization said, we're here to make money. And that's not just Monsanto, that's a lot of food industries. Their job is to make money for the investor. Unfortunately, that becomes the highest priority thought in their minds. Make money, make money, make money. They're not actually making products to make health, they're making money. And so they tend to overlook the health consequences. I think that is a ridiculous sort of approach to the problem. There should be some responsibility being assumed by the producer that when they're producing food, they have a reasonably good assurance that it's a good quality product. That should be the highest priority thing. And then if they can make money with that, fine and dandy. But unfortunately, it's usually the other way around. People in this sort of business are looking for opportunities to make money first priority, and then in this case, maybe letting somebody else worry about the health consequences.
Were not only that GMOs were different, but that they were inherently dangerous, that they might create allergies, toxins, new diseases, and nutritional problems. They had urged their superiors to require long-term study, and when they saw drafts of the policy coming back to them, they were angry and urged their political appointees to change course. But Michael Taylor and the political appointees ignored the science, ignored the scientists, denied the existence of their concerns, and set forth a policy that allowed GMOs to be put on the market in a way that creates unprecedented risk for human beings and the environment.
The FDA is composed of smart people, but they're smart people with a conflict of interest. They're smart people who make their decisions based on what will support their financial needs or their academic needs, not what makes scientific sense.
Governments now, wherever they are dependent on corporations. Who are these governments? Who are these companies? Corporations. Telling people what to do, what to eat, what to feed their children.
85% of all the genetically engineered crops in this country and around the world are designed so you can soak them with weed killers, toxic herbicides. And who are the big companies that do this? Come on, you know who they are. Monsanto, anybody, what? Who else? DuPont, Dow Chemical, Syngenta, Bayer. What kind of companies are these? Chemical companies.
As the chemical seed package has spread, and now with genetically engineered seed that originally was free in India because it belonged to the farmers, or was low cost because it was released from the public sector universities that did seed breeding. In the genetic engineering revolution, these seeds are now patented property of one corporation called Monsanto.
They take genetic material, either DNA or RNA, and insert it using transgenic species that is impossible to reproduce in nature because the form is created. Here's the danger. It can cross-pollinate. It can contaminate the traditional crops.
Percy Schmeiser was a farmer in Canada who was contaminated.
Years and years there was no problem. When they introduced this Bt toxin producing cotton, thousands of sheep died, buffalo died, goats died. I've interviewed the people myself, seen pictures of their dead animals. These animals were successfully grazing on non-Bt cotton plants for years. In one case, 13 buffalo grazed on Bt cotton plants for a single day, and within 3 days they were all dead.
We have increasing amounts of autoimmune problems. We have increasing amounts of pretty much everything. The pharmaceutical industry has no interest in having you well because they don't make any money if you're well. And the pharmaceutical industry is the biotech industry, and it is the agrochemical industry.
Thousands of doctors are now prescribing non-GMO diets to every patient. In fact, the American Academy of Environmental Medicine urges all doctors to do so.
We're giving vaccines in children. We're giving all these other drugs, bad food, pesticides, hormones, everything getting into the system in animals and people. This is going to drive countries bankrupt.
We're talking about people whose lives are either terminated through preventable diseases which were not prevented, through the toxification of their bodies by toxic food.
There's no shortage of food. This is purely due to corruption, because corrupt people in power won't let poor people have their share.
Now, since GMOs were introduced, there has been a dramatic increase in infertility in the United States. But there's significant evidence both in laboratory animal feeding studies as well as livestock experience to point a finger at Roundup-ready crops as a potential cause.
Big agricultural and chemical companies don't want to label GMOs. What these corporations say is that labeling GMOs will increase our food bills. What I say is if they're so concerned about our bills, then they need to focus on a bigger price tag, and that's our healthcare costs. And we're not just talking about the cost of medications here. How about the cost of missed work and lost productivity when parents have to rush their child to the emergency room or to a doctor's office? And for the children, how about the missed school and summer camp? We're talking about the emotional and societal cost played out over and over again, hundreds of thousands and millions of times over.
So these companies that are promising us to have abundant food, bring prosperity, they're lying, and the governments are with them.
I think if you really want to know the true story about what corporations are doing in our society, about the various harms and dangers that they present, you can't rely on mainstream media. You have to go deeper and you have to go further.
So what you see is Monsanto genetically contaminating crops, monopolizing seed and destroying biodiversity, turning farmers into serfs through this indebtedness, corrupting government, undermining law and regulatory process, and worst of all, polluting scientific knowledge. They're polluting genetically, they're polluting politically, and they're polluting epistemically. They're even stealing our minds.
Through the food we eat, through the television and programming and the news media we receive, that information alone constitute what you might call the nocebo information.
So what you see is Monsanto genetically contaminating crops, monopolizing seed and destroying biodiversity, turning farmers into serfs through this indebtedness, corrupting government, undermining law and regulatory process, and worst of all, polluting scientific knowledge. They're polluting genetically, they're polluting politically, and they're polluting epistemically. They're even stealing our minds.
Through the food we eat, through the television and programming and the news media we receive, that information alone constitute what you might call the nocebo information.
लेकिन पहले काश साहब की जाने बढ़ूंगी। काश साहब, आप कुछ बीजों का जिक्र कर रहे थे, कुछ नए किस्म के बीज लाए जा रहे हैं और वो ये भी कि वो महंगे भी।
ये बड़े तकलीफदेह बीज हैं। ये हमारे हमसाया मुल्क में भी आए थे बीज, और इसके बाद हमने देखा कि हजारों किसानों की खुदकुशियां रिपोर्ट हुई थी। ये जो है वो कुछ मल्टीनेशनल कंपनी ने अप्रोच किया है हमारी जो मिनिस्ट्री है फूड सिक्योरिटी की उसको, और उसमें उन्होंने ये जो जेनेटिकली मॉडिफाइड बीज हैं ये एक ही दफा क्रॉप देते हैं और उसके बाद ये बार बार खरीदने पड़ते हैं। फिर इनके बारे में जो अहम जो मैं पढ़ रहा था वो ये कि अभी इनके बारे में इनको बैन कर दिया गया है यूरोप के बाद मुल्कों में। रिसेंटली फ्रांस में जो है उन्होंने कहा जी कि इसके जरिए जो फूड बनती है वो इंसानी सेहत के लिए ठीक नहीं है, इवन कैंसर तक के मसाइल उसमें सामने आए। लेकिन इससे बढ़कर ये कि जब आप ये बीज इस्तेमाल करते हैं तो उसके बीज के इस्तेमाल से ये होता है कि खास किस्म की पेस्टिसाइड्स, तो फिर एक पूरी मंडी बन जाती है आपकी। और ये यही हुआ कि यहाँ पे इस तरह भी खुदकुशियां किसानों की रिपोर्ट हुई हैं कि उन्होंने पूरा साल 6 महीने जो मेहनत की थी वो प्रोड्यूस उनके सामने पड़ी थी और वो बहुत कम थी उस अखराजात से जो उन्होंने उस पर किए थे, और साथ ही दरख्त से लटक के उन्होंने खुदकुशी कर ली। ये हजारों की तादाद में खुदकुशी हुई थी। और इसके अलावा कुछ डॉक्टर चिश्ती हैं, उन्होंने ये भी हमें बताया है कि ये जो इसके एनवायरमेंटल हैजर्ड भी बहुत ज्यादा है, तो एनवायरमेंट के हवाले से भी उन्होंने इस पे, तो मैं ये समझता हूं कि ये अगर इसका कोई ऐसा हो रहा है तो कोई अगर कुछ सोच रहा है तो पहले ये देख लें कि हमारे हमसाये में क्या हुआ था। और साथ इसको मैं जोड़ दूं, जो इंडिया में इंसर्जेंसी है 40% इंडिया पे जो इंसर्जेंसी है वो बेसिकली जो वो रेजिस्ट कर रहे हैं उसी कॉर्पोरेटाइजेशन ऑफ लैंड जो है वो उसकी वजह से 40% जो इंडिया की रेटी नहीं है वहां वो घुस ही नहीं सकते। तो ये वो मसाइल है और मेरे ख्याल में हमें बड़ा सोच समझ के ये फैसला।
What's going to get your children through this and your grandchildren's generation? What are we handing off to them? What are we passing down to them? If the earth is us and it's our greatest legacy, what are they inheriting?
And if you care about what you put in your body, you'll create as much of your own food supply as you can while you still can. Save seed, grow heirloom foods without any chemicals.
I mean, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of methods and ways that we can go about correcting this and preventing this, but we have to start making those changes now.
Yes.
What's going to get your children through this and your grandchildren's generation? What are we handing off to them? What are we passing down to them? If the earth is us and it's our greatest legacy, what are they inheriting?
And if you care about what you put in your body, you'll create as much of your own food supply as you can while you still can. Save seed, grow heirloom foods without any chemicals.
I mean, there's dozens, if not hundreds, of methods and ways that we can go about correcting this and preventing this, but we have to start making those changes now.
Yes.
If what's important to you is what goes into your body and what your health is now and will be, then you have to become activated.
Globalization has happened. It's here. But its effects have to be reversed. Globalization in a good way, where people learn about each other, people learn about each other's religions, to tolerate each other's spirituality, work together, work in nature, work with God.
Because it's time for us to re-empower our lives.
For 10,000 years, humans grew crops without chemicals. You know, it's time that we get mandatory labeling. It's time we cut down the biotech bullies to size. And then now, let's have that discussion again about chemical agriculture versus organic or traditional agriculture. The overwhelming majority of the public want us to produce food and to raise animals in the natural, healthy, humane way, in a way that doesn't destroy the environment, public health, and the climate. And we're going to get to that point, but it's going to require, as I often put it, the food fight of our lives.
And they found that the genes that were inserted into soybeans transferred into the DNA of the bacteria living inside us, and certain varieties of genetically modified corn are engineered to produce an insecticide. An insecticide living inside us, an insecticide.
I'm looking at the food that's in the grocery store. They say it's safe, everybody eat more. On second thought, I don't really know. It was made with those GMOs. So I'm looking for the non-GMO label. Before I bring it home and put it on the table, I wanna know if it's verified, so I don't harm myself with genetically modified. They don't want you to know. Poison they grow. Profits that show. From those GMOs. Seeds that they sow. Gonna hurt us, we know. Told them to go. Say GMO, no. Hey, look. I don't want to eat poison, I don't want gene mutations at my dinner reservations. It's a food abomination, what they're doing to this fast food nation. They take artificial gene combinations, inject them in seed variations, so they can grow their franken-food imitations, while the side effects cause medical patients. Keep the profits alive while they're spraying on the food with name-brand herbicides, and all the while they're spreading their lies. Monsanto destroy a farmer's lives, and the FDA just keeps it all going, saying it's safe even though they all know it's just poison, stealing away your life, and that's what you eat, genetically modified. They don't want you to know. Poison that grow. Profits that show. GMO, no. Seeds that they sow. Gonna hurt us, we know. Told them to go. Say GMO, no.
FDA scientists said that GMOs might create allergies, toxins, new diseases, and nutritional problems. Allergies, toxins, toxins. And they said, no testing necessary. No testing necessary.
GMO safety, that's a corporate myth. If you don't believe me, listen to Jeffrey Smith. He's the man with the plan, gonna do what he can to help us all get those GMOs banned. But we need you to lend a hand, take a stand against this food stand. It's a mission for the health condition worldwide, cause we don't wanna live genetically modified.
No testing necessary. Living inside us. No testing necessary. Living inside us.
Don't eat food unless you know what's in it. Don't believe the propaganda, the press will spin it. Affects everybody, we all up in it. Stand up to Monsanto, tell him, oh no you didn't. Reject franken foods in the store. Demand honest labels so we can be informed. We have a natural right to know what we buying. Just say no to GMO before our farms start dying. Just say no to GMO. These corporate crooks are lying. Just say no to GMO. This time we're not complying. Just say no to GMO. We're just not buying it. Just say no to GMO.
No testing necessary.
Just say no to GMO.
No testing necessary.
Just say no to GMO.